Salute to all my subscribers. Shout out to everybody else just passing through. YouTube, what's good? Yeah, y'all not gonna like me for this shit. But in light of all of the protests that's been going on ever since President-elect Donald Trump has been announced as having won the 2016 presidential election, I'm not even gonna call it a protest, because this shit, almost every major city now across this nation, people are just bugging out. This is disrespectful, destructive, counterproductive, just recklessness. Now, having said that, and it's the part that I know a lot of y'all not gonna like, having said that, you can't tell the citizens of any nation, I don't care if that nation is a democracy, quote unquote, that's supposedly for, of, and by the people. I don't care if that nation is under dictatorship, being ruled by a tyrant. I don't care if that nation is a kingdom under a monarchy system ruled by a king or queen. I don't care if that system is capitalistic. I don't care if that system is whatever the fuck governmental system. People are only stupid for so long. When you consistently tell people not to be violent, you tell people be peaceful, you tell people avail yourselves of the opportunities and the rights that are afforded you by the Constitution, and participate in the system that you want to change if you don't like the current state of affairs regarding that system. You cannot tell people that if you participate in elections and you exercise your right to vote as United States citizens, that you will see the results that you want to see. I understand that doing nothing changes nothing. And I understand that a lot of people who sit and complain about the nature of anything in life are usually the people who are sitting on the sidelines watching everything happen. I understand all of that. Having said that, though, you tell people that if they participate in the process, that things will result favorably for them, and then they do that, and you spit in their face by showing them, nah, basically we was just fucking with you. Your vote don't really count. It don't even mean shit. You can't have a presidential election, any election, and have a candidate win the popular vote, and because they lost the electoral vote, and you don't even explain to people exactly what the point of an electoral college is and why every vote can't just count vote for vote. You can't do all these things, contradict yourself, want people to be nonviolent, want people to be productive citizens, want people to be law-abiding citizens. And then as soon as people try to work within the system, you show them to their face that that system ain't worth shit. Because these millennials don't play that shit. These millennials are not the average go along to get along citizens. They're not just gonna take shit lying down anymore. These millennials aren't playing any games. And while I don't necessarily agree with the extent that a lot of these protesters are taking things to what level things are being taken to, but at the same time, I get it. I would tell anybody who's protesting in the way that these protesters are, is that at the end of the day, y'all are really destroying your own cities, your own communities, your own property. Y'all are really destroying things that you all need to maintain somewhat of a normal life that you've been used to. When you start to destroy your local stores and you start to destroy cars and private property and public property, you got to go back home to that community at the end of the day. But having said that, I understand the frustration. These millennials are pissed off because you told people to vote for who they wanted to become president, and you told people that if they participated in that system in a constructive way, that, for the most part, they would get what they set out for. And then you basically tell those same people that basically you should have just stayed home anyway. And then you turn around and tell the people who do say they're going to stay home that they're not productive citizens because they're choosing not to exercise their right to vote. Every vote does not count. Every vote never counted. Every vote will never count. Because when you go to the polls and you vote for a candidate, understand that you're not voting directly for that candidate. You're voting for a small group of people identified as the Electoral College, who will then go ahead and decide or pledge to vote for the candidate that you want to vote for on your behalf. But think about it. If this group of people was really voting for the person that you say you want to vote for, why would that group even need to exist in the first place? If it should really just be vote for vote, the number of people who vote for this candidate versus the number of people who voted for the other candidate, and we do a count, and that's it. Because you have different states with different numbers of electoral votes, different, depending on the size or the demographics of the people voting, and you have this group in this state that represents this number of electoral votes. You have this group in this state that represents a whole different number. This shit don't make any sense. And my belief is, if you have to overcomplicate a system to the point that the people who are meant to operate within that system don't understand how that system operates, then you're doing it for the purpose of not being in favor of the people who have to live in and operate within the construct of that system. So, I mean, if y'all feel y'all want to burn flags, hey, I'm with it. I don't stand for this flag anyway. To me, the United States flag is really just a bandana that represents the largest gang in the history of this world. And if you want to argue that by doing so, these people are disrespecting what this country stands for and disrespecting men and women who served for, fought for, and died for this country, well, that's bullshit too, because the same people who fought for and died for this country didn't even have a clue what they were fighting or dying for. Because you send troops overseas who are fresh out of high school, who are barely old enough to be parents, and a lot of them leave their kids behind and leave brothers and sisters and wives and mothers and fathers behind to fight for what you say is freedom and liberty, but it's really just resources, real estate, things like oil. I really am having a hard time publicly showing my disdain for these groups of protesters in all of these cities, from Oregon, Chicago, to New York, to LA, that are just fucking shit up and keeping it moving. I'm having a hard time disagreeing with their actions because the status quo is fucked. In the same way all of you people, you middle-aged Americans, the same way all of you upper class and one percenters, the same way the majority of you people who claimed to not be in agreement with what Donald Trump stood for, but then the vast majority of you clearly had to have gone out and voted for this man. The same way that you're tired of the status quo on Capitol Hill, the same way that you're tired of the status quo in the political world, these millennials are tired of the status quo with this government, period. And between everything that's been going on socially over the course of the past 5, 6, 7 years, everything that's all over Facebook news feeds and Twitter timelines, and all of these young minorities being shot down in the streets and killed by police and not being taken to task for what they've done, for not having to go through the criminal system and be punished for their crimes like any other citizen would, for the countless number of elections that continue to put people who are ill-equipped and who are out of touch with the everyday citizen who lives in every community in every city across this nation, because you don't know the cost of a gallon of gas, because you're out of touch with what the cost of a gallon of milk is, because you're somewhere in Washington, D.C. fighting over stock prices and fighting over barrels of oil costs and fighting over percentages that the auto industry owes back the government because of a bailout, and all of these things that don't affect the average everyday person. It's no wonder why people are taken to the streets, destroying shit and letting it be known. Because the sad thing is this: you cannot get the attention of the system by operating within the confines of that system. It's what the system wants you to do. I don't necessarily condone the behavior of some of these protesters, but I understand the logic. And I understand and know full well that the only way to get the attention of the system is to fuck the system up. If you don't throw a wrench and cause a glitch in the matrix, then the matrix will continue to swallow everybody up, tell us bullshit, and let us go on about our day like we don't have a fucking clue in the world what's going on around us. But these millennials, they not with that shit. And they don't give a fuck about tearing their own shit up. And that's a dangerous protester. When somebody doesn't give a fuck about tearing up their own communities, when somebody doesn't give a fuck about tearing down and burning down their own neighborhoods, you might want to start to introduce some real change into the system, because these millennials are not going to stop until they fuck shit all the way up. And I just stopped by to say I don't really disagree with them.